So my name is John Eastman, and I've known Randall for 15 years in many, many different ways, many different parts of it. The way this is going to go today is we're all here to share with each other what Randall was for us, what our memories or experiences are, what touched us, where did he expand who we are, any and all of that. There'll be tears, there'll be laughter, there'll be whatever gets brought forth in the space that we all create here. And this is designed as a circle so that we're all in this together. I'm only here to introduce how the time is going to go. We've got a short audio segment from a time when Randall was speaking at the introductory meeting of the Clergy Health Council. That's something that he was participating in here in Cincinnati. So that'll bring Randall's own voice into this room. Following that, Alok has some information from his experiences of the last couple weeks of Randall's life that will, the intention is to add some information, but it's to really put a certain level of closure and completion to the final events so that we're really remembering and honoring all of Randall's life, not having this be about the end of his life. So when Alok is done with sharing that prepared statement, we'll settle into some silence. And the silence will be a period to reflect and to look at your own experiences of Randall and what comes forth for you. And when someone then has something that is theirs to share, please rise and someone will bring you the microphone. This is being recorded, and one of the things that means a lot to me is that as the godfather to Randall's son, is there'll be the time in which I can bring this sharing to Andrew. That the circumstances are such that he couldn't be here today to have this memory of his father. But these things that you share will be more of what he'll know of Randall's life than any other single event. So that's why we want you to use the microphone. And each sharing, there's a saying in one of the organizations I participate in that elegance is brevity. And that's not to put any specific time limit on the sharing, but that we want as many people to share as possible. But after each person sharing, allow some small period of silence. And it may be 30 seconds, it may be 2 minutes, but some period of silence to continue to take in what was said and to reflect, have your own reflections. But everyone is welcome to share what's yours to share. That's your gift to this community. That's your gift to Randall's son. So with that, we'll begin with, Richard, are you ready? Okay, we'll begin with Randall's voice, after which Alok will share, and then we'll go into the silence.
Good morning, distinguished clergy of Cincinnati. Thank you for coming and braving this snowy day and all this weather. My name is Randall Ball. I'm a community health minister, and it's my privilege and honor to welcome you here today and to moderate our program. First of all, thank you for coming. Your attendance today speaks powerfully to your commitment to the health of our community. We are honored by your attendance and your willingness to learn about our health program and our proposed Clergy Health Council of Cincinnati. The first thing I want to let you know is that everyone, including myself, that are here, we're all volunteers. None of us are professional speakers, and there's no monetary remuneration for what we're doing here. Some of us even have made great sacrifices in our lives and given up lucrative careers to discover and find this information that we're bringing here to you today. As Megan said, this is a 100% vegan cafe. What you may not know is that it's staffed almost entirely by volunteers. Megan is the only paid employee of this cafe. Every single other person that has put this cafe together and provides this food for you is a volunteer. The other thing is we are offering you the ability to purchase the full DVD that we're going to show you excerpts from and some other books, but they're all offered strictly at cost. Again, there's no financial remuneration for what we're doing. So why do we do this? Why are we here? We're offering this program to you today out of the love and passion of our hearts and the committed courage and conviction of our souls. We are simply sick and tired of watching our loved ones, our community, and even our entire planet continue to suffer and to die, all, as you will see today, needlessly. As the Bible says, the people perish for lack of knowledge. In return for sharing this knowledge, this information today, we're simply asking you to open your own hearts and minds to receive our gift and to seriously consider joining us in our efforts to reach others, particularly those in your congregations. Still, I must caution you, while this gift may actually save your life, save the lives of those that you love, maybe even hundreds in your congregation, it's going to take courage and boldness to share this knowledge. If the task was easy, it'd already be accomplished. Before I go on, I must tell you a little bit more about myself. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions. This person standing before you was once steeped in the medical industry. Beginning over 30 years ago, I spent the first 10 years of my career as a specialist in the very high-tech clinical diagnostic laboratory environment, and I later studied to be a hospital administrator. My younger sister and her husband and my college roommates, they're all medical doctors. My ex-wife is a medical technologist, and her mother was head of an emergency room of a major hospital. All I once knew was traditional medicine, and I made very good money at it. I once thought that that was all there was to health. It was all traditional medicine. Today, things have changed. I'm telling you this so that you can powerfully hear why we specifically invited you here today. Why the clergy of Cincinnati? Why? Because you have a unique role to play. Of all the professionals in Cincinnati, you have a particularly powerful, distinguished place from which you can truly make a difference. A unique place to stand that no other profession has, free of legal and threatening restraints, free of vulnerable attacks of financial conflicts of interest. Now a few questions. Who among you believes that God created the earth and everything on it? Please raise your hand. Thank you. Who believes that God created man in his own image and likeness, and that God considers man his supreme creation? Okay, now be careful with this one. Who of you doubts that God created man with a miraculous self-healing body, and that God created everything on earth necessary to sustain that body? All the foods and all the remedies on the earth in their natural form, ready and available to feed and heal this divinely created body of ours. Now, an uncomfortable question. Please ask yourselves, how many funerals are you attending lately? How many hospital visits are you making? How many prayers for healing are being requested by your parishioners? And finally, a trick question. Be careful here. Who in this room knows what the initials MD have come to stand for? Please consider that all too often those initials have come to stand for medical deity. Please consider that the shepherd people are far too often now placing their trust and faith in, even their very lives, is not God, nor his representatives and teachers, not God's legitimately ordained ministers such as yourselves. Instead, far too many Americans, including, frankly, even many clergy, have been hypnotized into giving their power away, their power of choice, to the medical deity establishment. to unquestionably following their doctor's orders. As you will learn today, this medical deity establishment, being trained exclusively in disease, actually knows very little about what actually creates health, and frankly has betrayed us. Our euphemistically called American healthcare system, the most expensive and bloated disease care system in the entire world, has co-created and collaborated with almost overwhelmingly powerful corporate and food and pharmaceutical interests to cause an absolutely devastating health crisis in this country, and is actively exporting this crisis to the rest of the world as well. In a nutshell, this blind, hypnotized allegiance is a major cause of degenerative disease, of this degenerative disease epidemic that we are facing, and that is why we are gathered here today. This is why I'm standing before you. This is why, with all my medical background, have suggested the creation of this Clergy Health Council to offer you the tools to now reclaim your flock for God. I know it sounds harsh, but what I am calling you to do is literally save your people from the frankly godless medical deity establishment, which actually knows little to nothing of the information that you will learn here today. Unlike many other respected leaders of our society, you as professional clergy, you may freely teach people about true health, about God's design, about how to be well and how to thrive, without fear of being accused of practicing medicine without a license. You alone are not selling another pill. You alone are not selling another potion nor another medical procedure. You as a profession have no commercial conflicts of interest. We're here to help you, but we need your help as well. Cincinnati and America need your help. So again, thanks for coming, thanks for listening, and please take in everything that we are sharing today.
That was Randall doing his work, being out here, sharing his gifts, his message, working to make the world a better place. And that's how we all knew him. All of us have been touched in some way by who he was and what he brought. We're all connected through him. We all have different stories of how we came to know him from all different places. So I know that it was much of a surprise to a lot of us, a shock. A lot of you shared with me by email what a shock it was to hear this news of his death and that he took his own life. Some people were actually very staunchly opposed to the idea that it's even possible. They said, there's no way this could have happened. He didn't take his own life. Something else happened. And I really honor the care and concern that people felt for him, for his work, and protection of the controversial nature of it. I think that it was a legitimate concern. So the reason I'm sharing right now is to share the other side of maybe what a lot of us didn't see, maybe what a lot of you didn't see, to bring completion to what happened, how this is even possible, to soothe that shock, to unfreeze it, and then to allow us to be able to move on into that healing place of closure. So I spent a lot of time with Randall over the years. We've had a lot of work that we did together, projects that we worked on together, just time as friends. We enjoyed our friendship together. We helped each other grow in different ways. I mean, we were like mentors. In fact, as I'm standing here right now, this is like the kind of thing that I would be doing with him. And I'm almost expecting him to, come up after me or say something, or us to kind of go back and forth right now. So we spent a lot of time together, and I got to see the personal journey that was underneath all this work that he was doing. And there were a lot of things that he shared with me that he didn't share. And he would tell me all the time how he wouldn't he felt alone, and he felt like no one could really understand him, and he wanted to process things or talk things through. And I'm sure all of you have experienced some aspect of that. You've experienced how he wanted to talk things through. He wanted to just be there with you and have you hear his process. And that would give him clarity, and that would give him energy. So he shared things with me, and I saw a lot of the ups and downs. That when he wasn't out here, when he wasn't doing his work, when he wasn't absolutely clear, then he would often be in this very searching place, often very depressed, not knowing what he was good for. What is he doing here? Do people even get it? Do people get him? Does anyone care? So when I talked with him recently, it had been a few months, and it had been a few months since we spent some real deep time together, because things happened that way. And I connected with him in those last 9 days of his life. When we first got together, it was very tangible that he was feeling very defeated. And in some way, it wasn't surprising. 2 years ago, Paradise Found shut down, and ever since then, he's been looking for where's the next project, what's the next form of his mission. And he had several things that said, oh, this might be it, or this might be it, or this is now what Paradise Found is about. And it was really neat to see him go through that, but those ups and downs kept coming. And from what I hear from those of you who've known him for longer than I have, that's gone on throughout his life, that he struggled with those depressive episodes and then feeling suicidal, I heard, at times. So apparently this has been going on for his whole life. And so when I talked to him, though, I had not experienced it that strongly. And we spent a lot of time together in those 9 days and tried to support him and help him through that and get him some help. And the thing was, and I think that you all have experienced that stubborn man, he had made up his mind. He had made up his mind. And what did he make up his mind about? Well, when I was talking to him in those last 9 days, when we shared things together and bounced ideas back off of each other, what I saw for the first time, I'd often seen him talk about feeling alone and feel like no one else can help me with this process. I need to figure this out. And, he always wants to go over the edge and see, where is the edge really? And then he'll call you from the other side and be like, oh, it's not so bad over here. The court people can't do anything. You just do this, and it's not a big deal to go to court about this issue or whatever the situation might be. So I felt like he was doing the same thing with regards to death and what was next for him. He was saying, this isn't it. I need to, there was some aspect of him that wanted to die. And what I was hearing for the first time was this desire or the perspective that maybe the challenges that he was struggling through were actually his personal challenges. It was the first time I heard him speak not about it's all out there, these people are doing that, and this is stopping me, and this is what's wrong out here. He was actually very soft, very mellow. It was something like I'd never seen. And in those moments, I felt there was the most clarity, the most opening to what would move him through this desire for death into a new life. But then in between those, it was, nope, I'm stuck. They've got me. That's what he said. They've got me. He wrote that in his notes, too. They've got me. They being the ones who took away his driver's license, the ones who have a money system that's rigged, as he would talk about, the ones who, all the challenges that he had, being Randall, fulfilling what he saw as his work, and feeling free to carry on his life in an authentic way. It was, they've got me. And that was the message I felt that ultimately led him to take his life. That at that moment, he felt, no, they really do have me. There's no way. And he told me, I'll rather take my chances with God because they have my body. This body that people call Randall Ball, they have it. So I did not expect at that moment when he took his life that he would do that. I knew he was very close. I knew that He felt very, it seemed to me that he was very committed at times, but as he went up and down, I also saw him with the hope or with the softness that would let him see something different that he had never seen before. What does he have to give up? What does he have to do that he's never considered before? So I was also shocked, but my first thought was, that stubborn man. That was my first thought when I heard the news of what happened. So, what can I say? Here we are. At that moment, he felt that's what he needed to do. And I've tried not to bring too much of my personal reflections into this part. We'll share more later. But this moment just begs of me the wish to express to you that we take this, and I know we will. I mean, we're wonderful, this community, all of Randall's friends, to take this and let this be something that feeds us, that teaches us, that lets us come together more, that lets us fulfill that vision more. So with that in mind, I want to share something that I received in correspondence with one of my close teachers and mentors. She's not able to be here today. Her name is Fanshan Shore. And she wrote something that I felt speaks very powerfully to this, what happened, and what we can take. Fanshan says, Randall fought for a better world in spite of the fact that he despaired that there could be a better world. His death had the violence which mirrored the world he feared would come to be. I am familiar at close range with this choice. At that moment, he saw no other choice. At that moment, he felt powerless. We who cared about him are finally made helpless. We are left helpless. It was his choice. This pain was more excruciating than his own reverence for life. It was one choice among many. Perhaps he was exhausted from his journey to uproot violence and greed. I appeal to the living among us to ask ourselves, how can we live with our own moral imperative in such a way that we know we are part of a community support? Suicide is a one-moment choice. It implies that no one, absolutely no one, could help. It implies that the pain was too great. It implies that no one cares. Randall is also the canary in the coal mine. Let's keep talking. Let's keep reminding one another how important each of us is. Thank you.
Hello, Andrew. Hello, all. I'm Kathy Ball. I'm the fourth born. Hello, Andrew. Hello, all. I'm Kathy Ball. I'm the fourth born. Randall was the fifth of our 6 children. And I first fell in love with Randall when my mother propped my elbow on the cushion at the end of the couch and put him in my arms and handed me a bottle. And I really loved her more than ever for sharing him with me. I had a little bit of problem thinking he was mine. But we had that experience. And then 2 years later, when I was 7 and he was 2, our father died. And safety and security largely left our world. And things were variously difficult for everyone. We ranged from 8 months to 14 years old. But there was a lot of love and a lot of support and a lot of other things. Anyway, over the years, Randall and I had an awful lot of very special connection in the dimension where he was operational, and that was the public and the communitarian. And that was the only part of our relationship that was rather good and rather solid. He loved that I practiced environmental law and civil rights lobbying and mediating community disputes and things like that. But we had many, many, many boundary issues at the personal level. And I just want to share with everyone my good fortune these last few weeks, because for the first time, I think, in our adult lives, we made the connection at the personal level, not the communitarian, not the abstract, not the political, where we'd pushed each other around and tried to manipulate and promote, is what I think of what he did. And I'm a pusher too. We're both change agents, but it sure was conflict between us. But in the last, I talked with him a lot, my telephone records say, 7 times in the 5 weeks before he died. And he made a close connection for me with Alok, which I think seems like a special gift. And I'm lucky that he and I had one gigantic fight, and we got under the assumptions of, if you don't care about what I care about in this big world out there, that means you don't love me. And that was something I went to war with him over this time, and it was the first time we had a really productive war. And I got to tell him in the last 2 minutes we talked that I wasn't going to stand for that, and he must hear that I love him. And he laughed, and I could hear his smile long distance. And he said, that means so much to me, and I love you too. So I have some regret left, because years ago when I lived in Cincinnati, I worked down on Vine Street on that crisis intervention, suicide intervention hotline thing. And I should have recognized that the increase in his energy was mobilization. But it's not guilt. He gave me the gift of a good parting, and I just wanted to share that with you, because I know him well enough to know that will not always have been so, because he was willing to sacrifice the personal and the existential from the public. But I really thank him for the connection he's made, which I feel obligated to be free to continue. So, thank you.
Okay, I first I just want to say I really give thanks for Randall being in my life and my family's life. My name is Aaron Stachenko, and back in 2003, 2004, I wonder if I should. No, I guess this is cool. We started a juice bar right there, and it was called Stachenko's Pure Juice Company, and to back up a little bit, he was first of all, I don't know if I said it, I'm a little sick, so I'm a little nervous up here, but I really give thanks for Randall Ball in my life. He was substantial in me learning a lot, and he gave me an incredible opportunity that I am just so grateful for. So I love you, Randall, and thank you so much, and I really wish that, I don't wish, but if I would have known he was in such a bad way, I would have liked to have sat down with him and let him know, like, you know, just like that speech that whoever wrote that, what you ended with, which is, you know, tell people how much you mean to them more often, you know. And I don't know if that would have helped, but I really wish I could have told him that he really impacted my life in a huge way and in a lot of people's lives at that juice bar, which, you know, I consider to be like legendary. You know, like this juice bar was incredible. But to back up a little bit, he was dating my mother-in-law, and he knew that I was into health. And I was in Seattle, and I had just stopped working for my dad's smoothie company, and I was out of work. And he called me out there and said, "Do you want to be part co-owner of a juice bar?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes," you know. And he gave me full reign to do whatever I needed to do to start a juice bar. And first of all, that is amazing. I mean, I didn't know him that well, really. And for this brother to have faith in me, to give me the money that was needed to create this juice bar, that right there is an incredible trait, you know, really, like, because I am trustable. And, like, he knew that I was going to do something with this thing. And he gave me full reign, and for that opportunity, man, it's just like, it doesn't come every day, you know, and I really give thanks for that. And so we did the juice bar, and, you know, we started it, and I was full manager. I got to decide things that I was just, like, so surprised about that he let me do. But he just, you know, the fact that he did that is just like a beautiful person. And I give so much thanks for that. The juice bar, you know, it ended because this market ended. But to this day, I have people come to me and tell me how much they learned about raw food nutrition at the juice bar. And just like, it was really fun. It was an amazing thing in Pleasant Ridge. I'm not taking credit for it. I think it was just divinely arranged. But Randall was at the head of that. You know, Randall was at the head of this amazing juice bar that was like a little a little island that people would come to and talk about their problems and detox with green juices and wheatgrass and possibly go back to the bathroom and have some elimination. And this was all Randall, man. And like I went on to start my own raw food business. And a big reason I was able to do that is because of this, how much I learned from this juice bar that Randall was at the foundation of. And I really just, I have so much gratitude for the brother. I mean, I could go on and on. I'm not going to. But Randall is a good man, and I really appreciate him in my life.
Thank you. My name is Rachel Lewis, and what the voice, Randall's voice, just penetrated me, because the day he was being recorded, the next thing he was about to say was, "Here's Rachel Lewis," because Randall, myself, and Rich, who is operating the cameras, had decided to start the Clergy Health Council. And we came up with that name and decided to go to the churches, mainly the African American churches, to launch this program. So we had invited these ministers to the Loving Hut for lunch, and then we showed them the eating DVD, and we talked to them about reversing the chronic diseases by changing our diets. And it was Randall's idea, the name Clergy Health Council. And since then, I believe that Randall's involvement was just magnificent, because he gave so much and so many of his wonderful ideas that we still use today. Since that beginning, we've presented our program in more than a dozen churches. This year, we've held 2 6-week classes to teach people how to reverse chronic diseases by changing their diets. Incidentally, I'm 87 years old. And most people say, well, you don't look 87. And I say to them, yeah, I look the way you should look at 87. You should not be sick. I fell. That's why I'm standing here when I came in and twisted my ankle. But I usually walk 3 or 4 miles 3 or 4 days a week. Randall and myself and Rich, we met on a weekly basis. And sometimes we'd have others who helped us. And I always tried to fix something exciting to eat. And he always said to me, Rachel, you're going to be a motivational speaker. So he took me to Cincinnati State and to the University of Cincinnati, to the Toastmasters group, so that I could learn how to speak. And I said, Randall, I'll go. So I've gone, and I probably will go back and really polish it up and refine it the way he wanted me to do it. But I am passionate, and he was passionate about the health of America and the world. So I believe that the Clergy Health Council, which Randall was a significant part of starting, is going to continue to do great things in helping people. We exist to educate, inspire, and motivate people to take control of their health by changing their diets. And that was Randall who helped us get it started. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Africa. I'm known in this community from being with CASA, one of Aaron's and Randall's partners at the Juice Bar, as well as one of the supporters of the Clergy Health Council. I'm his wife, and this is our daughter. He couldn't make it here, but he would like for me to put it on speakerphone if that's okay. So give me a second. But as far as me and my connection with Randall, the thing I loved most about Randall was the fact that he was non-judgmental to people. I was really nervous coming into this community. Yeah, I got you on speakerphone, just a minute. And Randall was one of those loving people that welcomed me in and introduced me to everybody. He was all about connecting people, and his mission behind connecting people was genuine, and it will live on in every one of us and many people that will come after us. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate Randall. Randall gave me a chance, and a lot of people prejudged me. You know, I didn't get a chance to show what I was about, and Randall was one of those people that said, you know what, I'll give you a chance. You know, I can see what you're about, and meet this person and get to know this person and put yourself out there and do this and do that, you know. So I really appreciate it, Randall, for that. And I'm grateful to have met all of you through Randall, you know, so it means a lot to me that I met Randall. So here's Casa, if we can hear him. Just a moment. Okay, say say something.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hey everybody. Randall Ball, peace to you, brother. More power, more strength on your next journey. Randall was my teacher, one of my best friends, great leader and a visionary. Randall had a lot of people in opposition, just like we all have, but I know one thing, that Randall believed in people more than he believed in himself. It's so much. I'm kind of overwhelmed every time I think about my experience with Randall, Aaron, and, the plight at the juice bar and where we all evolved to right now. And I know for a fact that without that time and that experience and that brother and his vision, a lot of things wouldn't exist right now in the health arena around here. So always in remembrance, always giving reverence to his great vision and his great spirit and his unspoken love that a lot of people may not ever get the chance to experience. I know that brother was filled with a lot of love, and a lot of different positive attributes that may have went misunderstood. But Randall, you're going to live on, bruh. That's for sure. Every day, all day, you're going to be in memory, and we're going to be working to make this world better. So that's my piece. Love to everybody that's there supporting the memories of Randall T Ball, Aaron, Sachinko, Lisa, Tim, Marianne, Rachel, everybody, Rich, John. It's love. Just stay focused on love. Because you never know what somebody else is going through, man. This is like unbelievable. That somebody so powerful would even consider taking their life. Thank you for being a great friend, for being a great mentor. Thank you for your purpose. Live on, bruh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Murphy Wellage. And the last time that I saw Randall was at Crystal and Alok's wedding. And he was dressed in a tuxedo that night. And he looked so magnificent. And after the dinner, and people were running around and talking and dancing and having a good time, and I was sitting at a table by myself, and Randall came up to me and he sat down. He said, "Hi, Patrick." He said, "I'd like to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I just want to say thank you for all the good work that you do in the community." And I said, "Thank you, I appreciate that." And then he looked at me and he said, "Now, is there anything you'd like to tell me?" And I looked at him and I said, "Other than, it's nice to see you here tonight, no." And he got up and gave me a hug, and off he went.
I first met Randall at a Tantra level. We call it level 2, but it was the relationship level of Tantra where I met my wife and partner. And I knew Randall on and off over the years in several different ways. And I can say in all the best ways that Randall was the most poignant catalyst for change I have ever met. He carried a fire that sometimes burned me to the point where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I hope that I carry some of that fire with me. I honor him. I'm amazed by what he's been able to change and do in the world. I miss him. I love him. He drove me crazy. He inspired me, and he got me to change in ways I never expected to be able to do. Thank you, Randall.
I'm Lynn, and I, like John, have known Randall, or Randy as we called him, for a lot of years. And I had kind of the same experience. I'm sorry to hear that he was despairing. I would like to think that he simply made a choice, because I've never met anybody that works so hard for others. I mean, he was kind of the combatant side of Mother Teresa, maybe, you know? If she had a sword and wouldn't shut up, you know what I mean? And over the years, he's had a lot of ideas that, of course, I've heard about. But the thing that I remember the most, and how I will remember him, is that he inspired me not by the ideas, some of them I liked, some of them I did not like, but because he never stopped talking, bringing people together, standing for what he believed was the best for us, not for him. Heaven only knows it wasn't the best for him, but the best for us. And he never stopped until he did. And I hope that wherever his spirit is now, he's learning patience.
My name is Steve Miner. And first of all, I loved him. I knew him since he was 2 years old. I just played ping pong with him. I played basketball with him. And he was a wonderful person. He was a loving person. He was almost ethereal. He was an antagonist. He was difficult. He believed in change. He was a catalyst for change. And as his sister would say, he was kind of on the outside looking in. None of us really appreciated how much pain he was going through. But, and I'm sorry I wasn't there for him, okay? I had watched Randy grow, and Randy did a lot of things that I didn't always agree with, okay, on a personal level. And not that he was not a decent person, but I come from probably a conservative background. And even from a conservative background, I loved him dearly, okay. I'm so grateful that he has so many wonderful, beautiful friends, and that you're all here today. And I know that Randy's still out there looking in, okay? But I think he's in peace. And Randy needed peace, okay? And he was a kind and loving person, and sometimes very, very difficult. Okay? But from the family, he was a part of us. And for that, we're grateful. Thank you.
I don't know whether to hold on to this or not. My name is Ricky Newbill, and I didn't know Randall Ball that well, but I do know him through you all, and I know that there is a time for all things. A time to live, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to just enjoy life. And if he was a catalyst for change, so are we. And we do carry that fire, and we do carry what we carry within us. And we have to keep carrying on. And I thank God for this spiritual community and this vegetarian community and this community itself. God bless you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Budai Richardson, and I wanted to speak of the early days of Earth Save, where Randy was a partner in what we were trying to achieve to educate people about their food choices. And Randy, I just admired you so much. You had so much to offer and to give, and you did, not only in Earth Save, but throughout the years in so many other ways that have been talked about here. The earth is diminished by your departure, Randy, and I will be forever remembering you and the gifts you brought to us. Your gifted communication, your inspiration, your visions, all of that. And I know, Randy, that, I will see you in the stars.
Hi, I'm John. I'm also with Vegan Earth, which is what Earth Save. It's now called Vegan Earth. And I remember Randall well from so many things, Earth Save and Vegan Earth. I remember a lot of discussions and arguments that I had with Randall. What I was thinking about coming over here is how he really made me think about a lot of things. And like some of you have said, I didn't always agree with him, but he really made me think. And he made me think, and I look around this room and I see the kind of people that are here. It says a lot for who he was. Because this is a fine bunch here. I know a lot of you, and you're really kind people. And he was a great guy. But I also thought about how activism is really, I read somewhere, it's the price we pay to be in this world. And I think that's what he was. He was an activist. And he made a lot of us activists and made us all think. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Nightingale. I feel so privileged to have had Randall in my life. We've spent hours talking and challenging each other. Such a fertile mind. He really challenged me to think about things I would never have gone to, really close to the edge. And I think he lived there. He's kind of not of this world. He had a vision that was so expansive, and I felt there was, in his thinking, a kind of a sense that there's a growing gap, a disconnect between this vision and what was happening with our world. And felt helpless about that. Wanted to find some solutions. He's eagerly searching, and I felt like a soundboard, trying out crazy ideas sometimes, but just lit me up. I just enjoyed my time with him. Thank you so much, Randall. I love you.
Randall attended a conference. It was about 16, 17 years ago, and I think it was the one called Common Ground for the Common Good. It happened in October of about 95 or so. And he wrote something called Imagine a City. And I was looking for my copy of it. He read it at this conference. And of course, I was in tears hearing it. It was so beautiful. And so anybody who has it, if you could email it to Alok perhaps, and then share it with everybody. You've got it. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm glad. Okay. That is part of his legacy, and I just would like to suggest that the soundtrack that came to my mind for Randall was Starry, Starry Night. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Reese, and I don't know, I think I knew Randall for 5-6 years, something like that. I ain't sure. But when I look at his life and reflect on it, and our relationship in particular, you can't share certain parts of yourself with everybody and have it be accepted or, honest with it. I'm kind of like Randall. I'm going to say what I got to say. You can like it or lump it, or however it goes. And I spent a lot of time with Randall on his front porch, being very open, and I'm not one you can just hand something and I'll just take it. So I would respond to him in ways that I think maybe he wasn't used to. And I brought him to the fire, and sometimes he brought me to the fire. But I really enjoy that because it ain't in life many times where you get that kind of authenticity. And me and Randall had that, and I cherish that because it takes guts to be for real. And when I examine myself, which Randall helped me to look at that sometimes, and I helped him to look at that sometimes. To be real takes heart. It takes something to really come from a real place. And that causes you to respect a person a lot and to have a love that takes on its own shape. So I had that with Randall. Now, we had our times when it got fiery and smoky, and it was hard to see, but in the end, we were gentlemen, and what he believed, and what I believed, I believed. So to me, Randall has been an authentic friend in my life. You don't get a lot of that. So, my man, whatever you're doing, wherever it is, stay down.
Everyone's sharing is like a piece of my experience. I'm sure you're all with him. We met in 2005 when I first came back to Cincinnati. And at that time, the connection between us was over a couple of things. And one was about health and the journey that I had been through and having a lot of alignment about what we saw possible and how the whole world works and then the vision. And we shared, and that was the moment I think where he really there was almost like that moment we talked. I went to a class that he was having at his house, and he wanted me to stay back and talk to him for a little bit because I'd shared a little bit at the class of what I was seeing for my life, where I wanted to go, and so he's like, we need to talk. So that was kind of the beginning of that friendship. And thereafter, we spent a lot of time like I was sharing before, working on things together. And one thing, like Lynn was talking about, Mother Teresa with a sword. He had this way of putting his sword where I would not, and I have a different way of making things happen. But it was always very interesting to me. It was very, I felt so honored and supported by him that he was always there. I mean, the loyalty that he had, I didn't even see what it was that he was so adamant about backing me up on things for stuff. And like with Aaron, you were talking about the juice bar. He described your relationship a lot when he would talk about his and my relationship, about how he almost felt it was his duty to for the younger generation and what we're creating to stand in defense of that and make sure it happens, because he's got the sword and maybe someone else wouldn't take you seriously or something. So that was just very precious to me, that he was always there, and anything I was up to, he always wanted to get in and make it something else. And sometimes I'll get a little bit mad at him about that. But he always wanted to just, he's like, no, you got to tell this person, you got to get this person involved, and you got to do this. And he always, because he cared that much. He saw the possibilities of it, and he just, his love for humanity and for the people that he was connected with, that he wanted me to do well, he wanted me to do this work, and he wanted this work to happen in the world. So that's one of the most prominent things that I remember about him, and his integrity, absolute integrity. And that was something where I just felt like I could always trust that we could have a conversation about integrity with integrity. We could be looking at each other's lives from the point of view of what's in alignment and what's not. And there was this exacting way that we shared about speaking and distinguishing things. That was unique, and I'm really going to miss him. I feel like I've lost a partner in life, and so I'll very much miss him.
My name is Ananda, and I just want to share how much I love and appreciate Randall. And I think some of you have mirrored some of the things I'm going to say, but he was a challenger, and he was a sacred activist, and he was a good friend, and he is teaching me something today about how we can have a group of people like this in a room, and we can have all these connections, and we have all this light and all this vision to share, and that there's another side of that, and we each have our light and we each have our shadow, and there's no difference. And I think that he had a lot of resources to share his light with, and maybe not enough to share the darkness with. So hopefully we can all be able to ask for help when we need it, and share some of that with each other, and get real about the darkness too, and not just the light and love. So thank you, Randall. And as we celebrate new life and mourn his death, I just want to really honor him.
My name's Nicholas. I met Randall 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I was just going to dovetail off of Ananda because I was trying to think about how to say what I wanted to say. And from the first day that I met Randall, he was so kind and asking me questions and really warm and really interested in what I had to say. And he didn't know me at all, and I was new to Cincinnati to some degree. And anyway, when I first met Randall, I saw that, and within days, I saw his dual nature. And one of the things I love about Randall was that he was willing to take the same level of confrontation that he could give out. And I had times with him where I was afraid to step forward and be real calm and real cool and just ask a question. But I wasn't afraid, and I came forward with him, and I'd say stuff, and he would explode, And, but after that, I could tell that he trusted me and that we were forging a relationship that was really strong. So I think that there's a level of torment that goes with the kind of genius that drives a person all the time. And if we can interpret it well, and we can learn to interpret it well, then it feeds us. And if we drive ourselves too hard, we'll go mad. And anybody with the kind of genius that Randall had knows what that's like. So that's all.
Hi, I'm Mary Meyer, and I've known Randall since 1996. And it was when I used to live in Cincinnati, and I returned to my roots in Oldenburg, Indiana, and I was really doing this sustainable lifestyle homestead thing. I'm trying to disengage from the city. And yet I did do a co-counseling course with Jenny Frazier, who's in the room, and he was there. And there was a part where we got to share what it is we were really here for. And I said, you know, what I really, my vision is that we live in communities in harmony with the earth in the way that we live our lifestyles and our homes and our energy use. And I just shared this whole vision, and Randall really got it. And we made a connection since then, and, you know, through things with diet and through Earth Spirit Rising, and it kept on kind of keeping my connection to Cincinnati and realizing that he was my connection to all the people that I had known when I lived here. And, you know, he became part of the Turquoise Marble Teaching Center out where I am with a Cherokee elder, and that Cherokee elder today is getting married, and I, you know, in his older life, thought he was ready to pass on, and met the woman of his dreams and is getting married today, and I left that to come here to honor Randall, because Randall was part of that community too. And more recently, I got connected to him through Landmark Education, and in a recent thing that I was doing in the last couple months with one of the programs, I was working with him in an event called Rise Up and Be Heard. And some of you may know this, but he was considering running for U.S. Congress. And, I mean, I live in Indiana. Why should I be concerned about somebody in Ohio? But he had me really seeing the importance of this and what could happen with people coming together in dialogue, that he was connecting it to some people running for local office and another person running for Congress. And I saw the vision that it was about creating a world that works, where he could bring all kinds of people together. And so he had reserved the Pleasant Ridge Library, and he said, you know, it's going to be overflow. We're going to have the Loving Hut. We're going to have speakers hooked up. And I'm like, you're crazy. You know, well, yeah, it's going to be overflow of the 180 people that could fit in this library. And I was like, God, you know, you're nuts. But okay. And so there were like 5 people that showed up, but still the conversation was rich. It was wonderful. We went to his house on the back porch and to the night, and it was great. And I really got moved when I saw that there's probably about as many people here today as what he was expecting to have on that day in July. And that I want to say that, you know, I think that he just couldn't handle being in a physical body anymore, so his release from this world sets free for us to carry on that vision and for it to happen. So thank you, Randall, for what you've given and what you've set free that we can make possible.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Brenda Newberry, and I cry. So I have 2 specific stories about Randall. I did meet Randall through Landmark Education. A lot of us have taken courses there, and one day he had a book under his chair, and it was something about raw food, and I was kind of interested in that. Some friends of mine in Atlanta had shared information about it, but what I didn't know is that a few months later, my 9-year-old stepson was going to be diagnosed with diabetes type 1. Sorry. And I went to the juice bar just for me to get a good smoothie and started talking to Randall, and I told him about Michael, and he said, "Oh, I have a book for you." And it was a Russian family whose 9-year-old son had been diagnosed with diabetes type 1, and they had put him on raw food and never put him on insulin. I can't remember the family's name. What is it? Patinko? Batinko. And at that time, that 9-year-old was 18 years old and educating the world about raw food. So it changed our life. And Gary actually went to Living Light Culinary Arts Institute. I mean, Randall told him about it. 2 weeks later, Gary's spending $5,000 and traveling across the country to a culinary school. And that's the type of activism that Randall is, not just general politics talking, but getting people moving and putting themselves in situations to improve their lives. And it was heaven out in California. That was 2004. And a lot's happened since then. I hadn't seen Randall a lot in recent times. I saw him at a Loke's wedding. That was nice. But just recently, if any of you hadn't seen him recently, I ran into him at the Loving Hut. I'd eaten lunch, was heading out, and he was just sitting at one of the tables having a cookie, sharing it with his dogs. I didn't know he had dogs. He had these 2 dogs on a leash tied to the chair, and when the fire trucks would go by with the sirens, the dogs would just howl with the sirens, and Randall cracked up. He thought that was hilarious. So I'm sorry to hear he was in such pain, but I like remembering people in some of those pleasant moments, and so that was a nice moment for me with him. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy, and I've known Randall back in the days when Paradise Found was going on, and
it's just so hard because this saddens me. As you can tell, I really liked him. I liked his energy. I liked his motivation. I liked his strength. I just liked how he cared about people. He cared about me. He listened to me. He always was, he just seemed so interested. And we worked very closely together on Paradise Found, where he needed some, administrative type work. So I helped him with some computer work and doing some secretarial stuff or whatever he wanted. And he got me, during that time, he got me hooked on talking about healthy eating. We talked a lot about health and nutrition. And I can remember how he kind of made me turned on to healthy eating and nutrition. And the last time I saw Randall was in this Beans and Grapes, when we were actually planning for that event that he was talking about on the speaker. We were actually having meetings twice a week about getting ready for that event. And that was when it was snowy, and we'd have meetings, and I'd bring food, and he was always happy about that, you know. He always liked his food, and then I didn't really get to see him much after that, but then I run into him over at Loving Hut, and, you know, we'd say hi and all that stuff. But, well, actually, the last time he wanted to borrow $10, and I gave him $10, and he paid me back, and that was one of the last times I saw him, was when he gave me that $10 back. And then, I don't know, back in the old days, I can remember, like, I thought he was kind of a good-looking guy, you know. I thought I was single, and he seemed like, yeah, he was single. And I was actually attracted to him because I guess it was just, I actually wanted to date him. I thought, man, I liked his energy. He was in the health and nutrition. He was a go-getter, you know, and I don't know. I really did like him. I'm just so grateful to know him, and, you know, I'm so thankful. I'm glad I've got the, you know, I'm sure he's up there
looking down on us right now, and he's kind of, I know he's glad that we're all together like this, because, I mean, I'm going to miss him a lot, but I know that with everybody in this room, we can carry on this legacy of his. So.
My name's Don Smith. I'm probably the least qualified to talk about Randall, because I'm here with about 6 other people who knew Randall for 11 days. He came to our church service on the 18th of August, and as now we all know, he engaged a lot of us in conversation, which led to more gatherings and meetings over a period of time, a very brief period of time. On the 25th, he was worshiping with us at Kennedy Heights Presbyterian Church, and at the end of that, he joined our Sunday school class, which he took over. I was pontificating on something, and all of a sudden I realized I was out pontificated. Strangely enough, we were talking about food. Talk about a serendipitous moment to have him in the room when we were talking about food. And listening to what he had to say, we just all felt enlightened and inspired when he left. And I've got to tell you something that nobody else has told you. I'm pretty angry at Randall. I don't understand why he did what he did, and I certainly do not judge him for it. But I miss him. And because of what he could have done for us, how he could have helped us. And when I'm talking about us, I'm not talking about that church, I'm talking about us. And I guess when you come down to Hamlet's question, the legacy that he offers us ought to be to answer the question, to be. Simply that. He had so much more to give, and I simply wish he could give it. I think we will do something with his legacy. And when I say we, I mean all of us. And that the world will be a better place for having known Randall. All I was going to say when I stood up was, I knew Randall for 11 days and I'm here. And that should speak for itself.
I am part of Randy's family, and I realize all of you are his friends, and there are family here as well. But Randy was my cousin. My dad was his father's brother. And all of you, I know Randy from a little different perspective. I know the part that you all know. But I also know Randy working for my dad on the farm, turning a tractor over on him after my dad told him specifically not to do things that he turned around and did. And yes, he has the ball. He had the ball stubbornness. That was what it was. And I also know the Randy that was a monkey that climbed up on a barn to help take barn siding down off the side of the family barn that was coming down so that the siding then could be put into people's homes. And Randy and I were cousins. We had different ways of thinking. He tried to change me all the time. Unfortunately, the past few years, I actually hadn't seen much of him, but he managed to stay in contact with me via email. I know the juice bar. I visited the juice bar more than once. I heard about the juice bar when the juice bar was coming into belief. I heard about Paradise Found. He would end up on our doorstep at the home place. I am lucky enough to live in the home place where his father grew up. And he would show up on our doorstep every now and then, maybe years in between. But he's Randy to me. He'll never be Randall, as everybody states. Even though we were very, very different, I loved him too. And I think he always came back to the farm, even though he had some ideas that he wrote down about his farm connections and his roots that actually ticked me off. And he knew that. But I think that what he has done in all his community activism and his veganism and his saving of the earth and people all stems from the roots of where he grew up. And I think that if you would sit down and talk to him, even though he had some negative feelings about some of those roots, that you could finally get him to admit that that is how he got to where he was. And I am sorry, the last email that I got from him were some beautiful pictures of his lovely girlfriend, India. And I unfortunately have been very busy, but I have to say that that was probably the best email I ever got from him, because he was not pontificating to me. And that was one of the hardest things, because Randy had lots of great ideas and he was an amazing person. And he didn't let the people that were closest to him love him. And but I think he knew we all loved him, even though he didn't not allow us to love him, because he was so, his mind was so active. And the sad fact is, I did not know he committed suicide until I came here today. And I unfortunately now have had suicide on both sides of my family as well as friends. And this is very, very sad to me. And what it is it's depression and people that do not know any other way out. And unfortunately, what the people that do this don't understand is it's the people that they leave behind that they are hurting the worst, and they really are not freeing themselves. But I wanted everybody to know that Randy had a different route. I mean, like I say, I can still see him swinging from the side of this barn, and I can see him putting the tractor in a groundhog hole, and I can see him turning over. And I'm the baby cousin of the cousins on that side of the family. And I have to say that of my cousins, he was the one that I developed the most relationship with, because I am the baby cousin, and there is a pretty decent gap in age between me and most of my cousins. So I am grateful for that, and I am grateful that he came to the farm and worked with my dad and allowed my dad to do some mentoring to him in his younger years, and that he also decided to come in and out of our lives over the past few years. But Randy is looking down, and I'm sure he's still pontificating. God love him.
Hi, my name is Susan, and I'm sure Randy would be happy to see all of our faces, knowing that we do care, and that we maybe didn't show it when he was here, but I know that he knows that we care, and I want him to forgive me, because I haven't talked to him in years, and the last time I saw him, I didn't really go out of my way. But Randy and I don't go back with food, we go back with alternative fuels. Back in 97, 96 maybe, and there wasn't many people I could talk to about alternative fuels, compressed natural gas, and using cleaner vehicles in our car, cleaner fuel in our car. But being an activist myself, I can understand his cloud. We still see war and pollution and bad food and cancer and all kinds of diseases that's caused by the reason that he wanted things to change. And his compassion for that, and all of us know in this room how deep that was, to make change in not only our communities but in our world. So when he talked about, some guys in New York running on compressed natural gas back in the mid-'90s, I was like, oh, I want that. He inspired me to open my own business. I ran it for 8 years. Of course, I was ahead of my time. He was way ahead of his time. I was ahead of my time. He was ahead of his time. But he was that link that said, yeah, Susan, that's what needs to happen. You go out there and get your all-fuel vehicles. This is reduce pollution and do this, And I just want you to know that I've been in these clouds, and I understand that when you're wanting to change the world and you're wanting to link with people and funds to do it, and everyone knows that that's what we need to do. It's not rocket science to come up with his dream, and we all carry it, but we have a hard time making them come true. They last short periods of time, and so I'm sure he knows that we understand, but I would like to ask him to forgive me personally for not reaching out to the people who have changed my life, who have spearheaded me in the right direction. And I'll bet he'll say, don't worry about it. But I'm happy to be in this room. Thank you.
My name is Shannon Ball. I'm Randy's niece. And I think just for Andy's sake, I wanted to just kind of share some kind of childhood memories, because when I was a kid, he didn't even have a twinkle in his eye of another kid. So we were the people, Lance and Mark and Haley and Chesney and I were the ones that got all of his Uncle Lee love. And he traveled a lot when we were kids, so he always brought gifts back. Beautiful, beautiful things that kids couldn't play with. And then one time, and we just had to put them in cases and just look at them, just kind of little fancy little things. But one time he brought us from Russia some stacking dolls, the nesting dolls from Russia. And that was my favorite toy for the next about 10 years. And I had it in my room forever. I think I was probably 4 when he brought that back, and I still have it. My sister still has hers. I'm sure our other cousins probably still have their things that he brought us. That was a different time in his life, a little later in his life. When I was probably about 10, I was eating a bag of Frito chips. I know, right? Terrible. And he walked straight over to me, grabbed the bag out of my hands, threw it away, and replaced it with organic blue corn chips. And then, of course, that started a big thing in our family that still gets talked about how Shannon likes chemicals. Because I said, I don't want organic chips, I want my Frito chips. And he said, what, you like chemicals? And I was 10. I mean, everyone has been talking here about how he cared about the younger generations and our health in the future. I ate the corn chips that were organic, and they were good. And I have not ever eaten any Fritos again. I hope you guys know that. But anyway, so I have one other little story that's not really of any consequence, but just something that I always remember about him. When he used to watch us when we were kids, he watched that program, the Bob Ross, the painting. And he said the reason he liked it wasn't because of the talent of Bob Ross, but because it was fun to play a game. And if you ever watch the show, he says little every few seconds. And so we would sit there when my sister and I were little kids and Randy there, and we'd sit on the couch and just say beep every time he said little. And my dad walked in the room, and we were all going beep, 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 beep at the TV, and that was Randy's game for us. And I know he didn't always get to spend a lot of childhood time with Andy, and I hope that he can someday hear these kinds of stories about when we were kids and remember the kind of playful uncle that he was to us.
Okay, hi, I'm Karen, and I'm one of the sisters. And I really don't like to stand up and talk, but one of the ways I felt like I connected with Randy that really hasn't been talked about too much here is Wolf Walk with Al, that Randall has written over there, Black Wolf Walk with Al. He put it on all of his emails, and I found myself being worried about him. I mean, who puts Randall that walks with Al and says he's going to run for Congress? I mean, it just scared me. And yet, you know, what I really wanted to hear today, and I've heard so much, is all the parts of Randall. And I, too, am just going to call him Randy because he's always been Randy. And I really tried when I talked to him to always say Randall because it really felt like he was growing up. This is going in a different direction than I thought. But this summer, Daryl and I went and saw him with his dogs, and he just seemed so happy, and he seems going to plant his garden, and he had some Mormon helpers. I don't know if they're here or not, but he just loved them, and they were helping him, and it felt like he was creating a space to live in that was just him. But obviously that wasn't enough. But anyway, I was thinking the other night, I couldn't sleep 2 or 3 nights ago, and I was just roaming the house, kind of feeling like this black wolf of Randy's, which I kind of share, because I kind of share. I'm okay. My voice just shakes. And I kept wanting to bring this book, Illusions, and it's a little bit long, but I kept thinking, do I really need to do this? But I went to see Randall yesterday in the funeral home, and I told him I'd read this. And the black wolf's been over here kind of nudging me, so it's a little bit long, but I do want to read it. And I think it kind of says the piece that I'm talking about how he seemed to know absolutely what was, can't see with these, what was right for the world, for the planet, for humanity, for health, for all of the things that he stood for. And some of us talked about him kind of being like a messiah. And I don't know if all of you have read the book Illusions, but it's about Messiah. And so if it's okay, I'm going to read this piece of it. The current of the river swept silently over them, all young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature in its own manner clung tightly to the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current, what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, I am tired of clinging, though I cannot see it with my eyes. I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom. The other creatures laughed and said, Fool, let go, and that current you worship will throw you. You're tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom. But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to change again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, See, a miracle, a creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah, come to save us all. And the one carried in the current and said, I am no more a Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure. But they cried the more, Savior, all the while clinging to the rocks, and when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of a Savior. And it came to pass, when he saw that the multitude thronged him the more day on day, tighter and closer and fiercer than ever they had, and he saw that they pressed him to heal them without rest, and feed them always with his miracles, to learn for them and to live their lives. And he went alone that day unto the hilltop apart, and there he prayed. And he said in his heart, Infinite radiant is, if it be thy will, let this cup pass from me. Let me lay aside the impossible task. I cannot live the life of one other soul, yet 10,000 cried to me for their life. I'm sorry I allowed it all to happen. If it be thy will, let me go back to my engine. This is a pilot, and my mechanic, and my tools, and let me live as other men. And a voice spoke to him on the hilltop. A voice, neither male nor female, loud nor soft, a voice infinitely kind. And the voice said unto him, Not my will, but thine will be done. For what is thy will is mine for thee. Go thy way as other men, and be thou happy on the earth. And hearing the master was glad, they gave thanks and came down from the hilltop, humming a little mechanic song. And when the throng pressed him with its woes, beseeching him to heal for it and learn for it and feed it nonstop from his understanding, and to entertain it with his wonders, he smiled upon the multitude and said pleasantly unto them, I quit. For a moment the multitude was stricken dumb with astonishment, and he said unto them, If a man told God that he wanted most of all to help the suffering world, no matter the price to himself, and God answered and told him what he must do, should the man do as he is told? Of course, Master, cried the many, it should be pleasure for him to suffer the tortures of hell itself, should God ask it. No matter what the tortures, nor how difficult the task. Honor to be hanged, glory to be nailed to a tree and burned, if so be that God has asked, said they. And what would you do, said the Master unto the multitude, if God spoke directly to you, to your face, and said, I command that you be happy in the world as long as you live? What would you do then? And the multitude was silent, not a voice, not a sound was heard upon the hillsides across the valleys where they stood. And Master said unto the silence, In the path of our happiness shall we find the learning for which we have chosen this lifetime. So it is that I have learned this day, and choose to leave you now to walk your own path as you please.
One of the most difficult things in a time like this is how much sharing there is, and that there's never the right time to conclude. We do have an obligation to have this room completely cleared by 3:30. There's some other things that are happening, and I know there's a desire to have some time to visit with each other. So with sadness and with wishing to hear all the other sharing there is to hear, I think that sharing is the place on which to end this part of this memorial. That we've got half an hour to visit here. There's a guest book here to be signed. There's copies of the Imagine Sacred Ground that were brought for those that would like it. A couple other quick things. This session has been taped, and it's audio tape but also video. If there's anyone who feels strongly that they do not want to be on video, please see Richard by the camera or see me, and we'll make sure that that's not included in the final version of that video. And I hope that few, if any of you, choose that path, because I know that at the time when I get to share this with Andrew, that he'll value every single voice that's spoken. Apparently, there's some amount of food at the Loving Hut that's been prepared. They're also concerned with too many people intruding on them, so it's a balance between honoring the food that's there and not overwhelming them. But it's another place where people can choose to gather and visit with each other. So with that, let's just take a few moments to just sit quietly. And at the time I feel appropriate, I'll reach over and shake hands, and then everyone shake hands with those around you, and then we'll begin to visit.
Companion, do you see a world shining in the sky? With your body dancing like an arrow, spreading joy beneath your feet. Afraid. Brother warrior, there are none of us who walk this path alone. Spirit healer is the only life that we have ever known. I see your smile in the sunlight. I hear your songs in the rain, and I hold you here inside me. I feel your love and the earth is waking to the dawn of another age. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. We are crying for a vision that all living things can share, and those who care